Hello and welcome to the Learning New Testament Greek channel. This is the second of 3 introductory videos about the letters of the alphabet. In this video we take a little dip into some relevant linguistics as we look at the pronunciation of letters and how they are grouped. We won't go too in depth on this topic, but what I've selected is basically relevant to students of the New Testament and will be useful later on when we come to learning things like verb tenses and so on. But also being able to sound out letters and understand how they are grouped and why will help you to learn the alphabet and help you to hit the ground running with committing that to memory. As ever, do have the pause button ready if you want to click on that to take a bit more time on any of these slides. But let's start off by looking at consonants. I looked at vowels in the previous video on the introduction to the alphabet. Consonants are divided into different classes. We have the semivowels, the mutes, and the double consonants. So what is the difference between a vowel, a semivowel, and a consonant? Well, basically, vowels have comparatively open configuration of the vocal tract, and the vibration of the vocal cords doesn't have any sort of audible friction in it. A consonant is the opposite of that, where there is a stop and a friction in the way that the word is said. Now, semivowels in Greek fall in between the two. This sort of thing's particularly interesting if you go on to study ancient languages, but for now we're just talking about this to help you understand how the letters were said and what groups they fall into. The semivowels in Koine Greek are lambda, mu, nu, rho, and sigma. And we also have the gamma nasal. I've covered this in another video, but that's where the gamma goes with another consonant, and where the pair go together, the first gamma is pronounced with a N sound, N sound. So, for example, 2 gammas would give N, like in the English word sing, or in the Greek word angelos. If the gamma was before a K, it would sound like an NK sound. If it was before a chi, it would also sound like a NK sound. Mutes are stopped sounds requiring a complete closure of the mouth in order to say them. The mutes fall into 3 classes, depending on which part of the mouth we use to say them. Let's start with the labial mutes, from the Latin word for lips. Now, you're not going to see me featuring in my own videos too often, but in order to show you the mouth shape of how these letters are said, I've taken some photos of me saying these letters. So the first one is P, pie, like the English P. The second B, beta, is like the English B. And the third, phi, is a bit like the F sound we get when combining P and H in the English language, such as in the word phone, which comes to us directly from Greek, the word for sound. These letters are all said at the front of the mouth using the lips. Next, and just in behind the lips, but at the front of the mouth, we get the lingual mutes pronounced. T, D, and Th. The Greek letters tau, delta, and theta, which are like T, D, and TH in English. The theta is significant, particularly in passive voice verbs, so remember to get that sound when you say that. The lingual sounds are from the middle to the front of the mouth, around about where your sublingual glands are in your mouth, as I've indicated on the picture. Now, these small differences, and I'm not going to go into great depth about linguistics, but these small differences are going to be significant later on for things that we're going to learn. So it will make a lot of sense why you're doing it, but it's a good idea to learn them now and understand how they were formed. And let us not forget that probably a lot of people in the Greek-speaking world would have heard things read out to them. Some of them may not have been literate at all and only would have heard things. So whereas we're looking at it as the language we read, for many of them, they would have heard it read out. And even those that could read would have heard the scrolls of the New Testament read out in public. Somebody coming and speaking and reading something out was a big thing. We hear Jesus doing it in the synagogue. And there were probably a lot more literate people in Israel than there were in the Greek-speaking countries, because boys were taught in rabbinical schools to read. We don't know exactly the level of literacy in Greece around this time, but it's likely that a lot of people would have learnt first by listening and second by reading. So when we learn, remember to listen to the sounds of the word and to think about the group that they come from, because this will be significant in our understanding later on. Then lastly, there are the palatal mutes, which, as the name suggests, engage the palate, the roof of the mouth, and are spoken more from the back towards the middle of the mouth. They are kappa, gamma, and chi. Both kappa and chi have a k sound, and gamma, like the English G, gives us a g sound. You can feel the part of your mouth that you are saying these from if you think about how you are saying them. There is another way of grouping mutes that we might think about, though. That is the rough and the smooth, and then those that are in between the middle ones, which basically are what they say they are. They're rougher sounding ones, softer sounding ones, and those that are a bit in between. So if we look at it from that point of view, phi, chi, and theta are regarded as rough mutes. And remember, the definition of a mute is that it stops the sound, temporarily stops the passage of the sound through your vocal cords. So the smooth mutes are p, k, and t. They're not pronounced with so much force or roughness. And then the middle mutes are beta, gamma, and delta. Now, the shape of ancient Greek started to take its form long before it was first written down. And when we move on to things like verb tenses, we will be adding letters into words. This adds smoother or rougher sounds. And if you pay attention to how those words sound, often it seems to have a great sense to it. Greek is a very sort of logical and structured language. And before it was written down, people would have learned the language by picking up on the differentiation between those sounds. So the smooth mutes were p, k, t. The middle ones b, g, and d. And the rough phi, chi, and theta. If letters come from the same order, they are called cognate, and what this means is a letter or a word is regarded as cognate if it has the same derivation. In other words, they're deriving from the same origins, the same group, the same order. Then they are cognate with one another. In the first video on the alphabet, I mentioned long vowels, eta, which gives us an A sound, and omega, which gives us an O sound. These also will become very important when we start constructing verbs, particularly in what's known as the indicative mood, and it helps us to see how verbs go into different tenses. So do remember that classification of letters, long vowel, is significant when we are looking at verb tenses. It's important to remember also the sibilant sounding letters. Sibilants are letters with a hiss, S-like sound in them. In Greek, a sign of the future or the aorist tense involves an addition of a sigma at the start of the suffix, the end of the word. If, when adding the sigma, it comes next to certain consonants such as pi, it combines to become psi, for example. Or where there's a kappa and a sigma, it would become a psi and give a psi sound. It's important to remember the sibilant sound when you read the New Testament words out, and you will over time come to recognize them and pick them out as a sign that the tense has shifted away from the present. Psi, zeta, and psi are also what is known as double consonants, and that's the last type of grouping that I'm going to look at in this video. Double because they have two sounds to them. Here on the screen you'll see psi, zeta, psi. Now the zeta, like the English Z, didn't actually exist in ancient Greek, but instead it was a DS sound. This evolved over time into Z, zeta. So particularly when you get a vowel before it, the zeta is pronounced with a lead-in a bit like a DS to it. Dzz. Again, this sort of thing will become important later, but for now, just think about grouping the letters, which will help you to memorize them and help with pronunciation, as well as to help to understand their function. So that's it for this video. Do check out our next video on diphthongs, accents and hard breathings. And if you haven't done so yet, you can practice using the alphabet practice video. After that, we'll move on to video 1.2, level 1, chapter 2, which is about the structure of Koine Greek. In that video, I give an overview of the language of the New Testament and how the grammar works, so that you'll have an idea of where we're heading as we move through the course, and to cover any relevant bits of grammar in English. Many of the elements of grammar actually started to be omitted from the English language syllabus from around about 1986 onwards, when the syllabus changed from GCEs and O-levels to GCSEs. So I'm going to cover a little bit of relevant information that you might need to know but is no longer covered on the English language syllabus. For now though, thanks for coming along. May the Lord bless you in and through your learning. Have a good week. Goodbye and God bless.